Do you see this? This is a $42,000 check from a rental property that I own that now brings me in over $350 a month in free net cash flow. And you wanna know something crazy? I bought this rental property. I got this check buying a property that I used none of my own money on. And if you are somebody that wants to buy real estate, you wanna grow your real estate empire, your passive income using other people's money, and you wanna see how simple it can be to build your own rental portfolio using this exact strategy, then watch this video, because I'm gonna walk you through the entire process of how I've bought millions of dollars worth of real estate using other people's money, and I mean that, none of my own money, and most people won't show you that. We're gonna show you that in today's video, how you can do this, and this is a rinse and repeat strategy that you can do in any market, no matter what your experience level is, whether you're advanced, whether you're a beginner, whether you have all kinds of money, whether you have no money, whether you have good credit, no credit. We're gonna cover exactly how you can go about doing this for yourself, coming right up. What's going on, guys? Matt A here. Welcome back to my channel. I felt
a tiny bit cheesy doing the whole check flex, but
hey, everyone says you gotta do something drastic to keep people's attention on YouTube nowadays. So I did it, okay? I'm sorry, I know it was shameless, but I was willing to take that risk because I want you to watch this video knowing that what I'm gonna share in today's video with this particular strategy, it can make you a lot of money. It can change the entire course of your financial future, your family's financial future, and it's an amazing strategy that anyone can use to unlock financial freedom. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how I found this deal, how I structured it, how I funded it, how I made it a win-win for everybody, how I used none of my own money in it. I'll show you how I optimized the property after I bought it, and then how I went about getting paid this $42,000 check. I'm probably gonna go deposit this right after I finish recording this video, and how I still own the property and it brings me in $350 a month in net cash flow. Does that sound good? But first, before we dive in, if you enjoy these videos, you know what to do. Hit that like button, let YouTube know there's some value being dropped in this channel, as well as subscribe to my channel for weekly videos on real estate, on investing, on entrepreneurship, to help you on your march to $1 million and beyond. Okay, so if you're watching this video and you've made it this far, it tells me that you're committed. You're committed to building your wealth. You're committed to your financial freedom, your future. You're committed and looking for ways to sharpen your axe. Whether you're a new real estate investor that is looking for a strategy that can help you build your rental portfolio without having to use any of your own money. Because let's be honest, who's got all kinds of cash laying around when you're first starting to invest in real estate? I know I didn't. Or maybe you're a little bit more of a seasoned investor, but you're looking for different strategies, outside of the box ways that can help you find more deals or structure deals differently to increase your portfolio, your passive income. This is a strategy that I've used and rinsed and repeated multiple times to build my rental portfolio, and it is a strategy that I like to call a subject to BRRRR. Basically, a subject to is when you purchase a property subject to the existing mortgage staying in place. So with a subject to, simply put, the seller's mortgage, the person selling the property, their mortgage is actually not paid off at the closing table. When the property is deeded over to the new buyer and the transaction closes, the seller's mortgage actually stays in place, and the new buyer promises to make the seller's mortgage payments on a monthly basis on the seller's behalf, which I'm gonna walk you through here in a little bit more detail in this specific deal that I'm talking about. Now, the BRRRR method is something that has become much more popular over the last few years. I'm sure you've heard of it, but for those that haven't, BRRRR stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. And I'm gonna show you how I combine the two of those on this deal. So let's dig into the details on this particular example, and I'll show you how I was able to buy this rental property using none of my own money, and most importantly, how I was able to do this legally and ethically. Now, to give you a little backdrop on how I found this deal, this was a call from one of my direct mailers. One day the phone rang and it was a seller on the other line who basically told me they were 8 months behind in their mortgage payments. They had some loss of income. The husband lost his job. They were struggling financially, and their house was going to get foreclosed on and auctioned off in the next week if they didn't do anything, and they were basically on their last limb, just trying to see if there was anything they could do to save their home. So in order for me to see if there was something I could do to help this family, I really needed to dig into the numbers and gather more information and analyze whether or not this deal actually made financial sense. Now, for me personally, when it comes to buying single family rentals, the main thing that I look at is my cash on cash return and the overall monthly cash flow of the property. Now, a good rule of thumb that many people like to use is the 1% rule. If you are not familiar with what the 1% rule is, basically the 1% rule says the amount of rent that you can collect on a monthly basis equals 1% of the total all-in cost of the property you're buying. So for example, if you bought a $100,000 house, in order for it to pass the 1% rule, you would need to be able to rent that property out and collect income or rent from the tenant of $1,000 at a minimum in order for it to pass that test. Now, in states like California or New York or many other high value home price states, it's practically impossible to find a house that actually meets the criteria of passing the 1% rule. So you may need to, one, either be a little bit more flexible on what your investment criteria is, or find a market that actually suits the 1% rule. Now in California, which is where I own a lot of my rental properties, I usually aim for an annual 10% cash on cash return and anything that I can cash flow for a minimum of $250 a door. If I can do that while having somebody else pay down the principal on my property and allow it to appreciate over time while having the asset bring in a little bit of cash flow on top, to me, that's a win. But again, everyone's investment goals are different. Everyone's investment criteria is different. So getting clarity in what yours is important, so that way you can back into a plan, a market, and a strategy that helps you accomplish that. So after doing some quick research, I realized that they actually had a little bit of equity in their home, but after the realtor fees and the potential repairs, they may have actually needed to bring some money to the closing table to be able to actually get the deal done, which they weren't able to do, and they didn't even have that money set aside. And on top of that, the bank wasn't really willing to postpone the sale because the bank had actually been trying to work with them, to communicate with them, and they were just ignoring them. So they really put their head in the sand. They waited too long until they ran out of time. I also learned that their mortgage was around $1,900 a month, and I knew that rents in this area were more in the range of $2,400 to $2,600 a month. So there was definite upside and cash flow potential when it came to this property. And I knew that, hey, if I can increase the income tied to this property and keep it in good condition and allow the property to continue to appreciate for the next few years while I leave their mortgage in place, I would be in a great position to go and refinance the property. And after looking at their mortgage and the current interest rate that was tied to it, I realized that, hey, if I refinance this property and I get a much lower rate than what they're paying right now, which I knew I could, then the monthly mortgage is going to drop. The increase in rents is gonna allow the overall cash flow to go up. And this was definitely in alignment after doing this research with my investing criteria. So I passed the initial sniff test, but I still needed to determine how much capital I was actually gonna need to bring to this deal in order to be able to execute on that plan, because I gotta be able to execute on that plan because there's too much at stake. In order to get this deal done, I need to crunch my final numbers and have this ironclad. So after doing more research, I learned that they were about 8 months behind on their mortgage payments, which totaled around $16,000. And then with attorney fees, because there are fees associated with reinstating the loan, it was going to be altogether about $20,000 to bring the loan current. Then, after doing my initial walkthrough and seeing the condition of the property, I realized that it was gonna need about $7,000 in repairs. They were gonna stay in there and there wasn't too many repairs that were needed, so $7,000 would get it in a very good condition for them to stay and remain living there. And then in addition to those costs, there were still transactional costs in order to get this transaction and sale done. So there was a couple more $1,000 on top of that, which totaled around the $30,000 range in order for this deal to get across the finish line. From there, I had to confirm whether or not this $30,000 invested to get the deal done was actually going to meet my investment criteria. And especially if I was planning on not using any of my own money, right? I needed to make sure that this plan was ironclad, that the investor's money would be safe in this investment, that I would be able to pay them the return that was a win for them, and that I would still be able to accomplish what I was trying to do, which simply put was to refinance the property with a new loan that would cover paying off the seller's current mortgage that we were leaving in place, plus the investor's $30,000 in the interest they were accruing, and still be able to bring in a positive cash flow for me at the very end. Now, this is a very important piece of the puzzle. You want to make sure you're gonna be able to pay off all of the debts tied to this property. So how do you do that? Basically, you want to make sure that all of the debts and liabilities tied to this property equal 75% or less than the expected value of the home when you go to refinance. So in this case, I felt confident that the seller's loan and the $30,000 I was going to take from an investor would be able to be paid off by the new loan when I went to refinance it. So after deciding the deal is a green light, now I needed to communicate and confirm and explain properly to the seller. So after explaining to the seller what a subject to was and that we'd be leaving their mortgage in place for at least 24 months, making the payments on their behalf, and how this was really gonna improve them, right? You wanna communicate the benefits to them to give them enough information to make a decision that aligns with their goals, how this would help improve their credit in the process, and build up positive payment history to help them avoid a foreclosure on their record while they got to remain in the house that they were worried about getting kicked out of. They were ecstatic. Now, all I had to do at this stage of the game was come up with the $30,000 and we were off and running. So what did I do? Well, when it comes to raising money, if it's a good deal, money will always find its way to the deal. That's one thing that one of my early mentors taught me, and it has proven time and time again to be true. And if you don't think you know anyone with money, I promise you, you do. Or if you don't, I know that you know someone who knows someone with money. And in this case, I found an investor who liked the deal. I promised to pay them a 10% annualized return on the $30,000 for 2 years. And after signing the documentation, funds were wired over to escrow and the deal was done. I now just bought a property using none of my own money. I got to help another investor grow their wealth and make money on their money, as well as save a family out of foreclosure. Pretty cool win-win. So let's recap real quick. I found an opportunity with a distressed seller. We explored all of the options that might best suit their needs and their goals. I analyzed the deal. We negotiated win-win terms for everyone, making sure that it financially penciled, and we closed the deal in 10 days. I helped them avoid foreclosure. They didn't have to watch their credit go down the drain, and they got to stay in their house for a few years longer instead of the bank selling it at an auction and kicking them out and displacing them from their own home and going through a really challenging situation. They got all of the things that they wanted. I got a rental property that I didn't have to go to a bank and qualify for. I got to use another investor's money and get them a return on their money. And now I own 100% of that property without using any of my own money or cash in the deal. I got paid on top of it, and I'm getting monthly cash flow. Once I closed on the deal, then it's all about executing on the plan that you laid out in the front end. Fast forward 2 years later, I got to go and refinance the property, which dropped the mortgage payment almost $400, which was crazy. Rates just got crazy good, obviously, with a lot of things going on right now. I got to pay off the seller's original mortgage. It boosted their credit in the meantime from me making all of those payments on time, and in the process, the asset was continued to be paid down. The principal kept dropping, the prices kept appreciating, the equity and value of the home drastically improved over those 2 years, which built up some massive equity in the property. And this was a house, again, that I gotta remind you, I bought using none of my own money. Pretty amazing, right? And even better, with the new mortgage amount that I got on the property after paying off the seller's mortgage, I was able to get and refinance out an additional $42,000 out of the property, which allowed me to pay off the investors $30,000 plus their interest over the year, almost 2 years, which is around $35,000. So at the end of this entire process, executing on this plan, I got to keep $7,000 in profit. I got paid $7,000 to buy this property. I got to own 100% of the rental property, and it still brings me in $350 a month in net passive income. Yeah, that called for a Ric Flair moment. That, my friends, is what we call creative real estate investing at its finest. And the beauty is, anyone can do this. I know and believe anyone can use this strategy and rinse and repeat it over and over. I've helped many of my coaching clients do it. I've done it for multiple properties in my own portfolio. It's made me a lot of money. And the great thing is, you can actually use this strategy to help a lot of people, a lot of families who don't think that they have any other options, and still make it a win for everyone. Now, I will say this, there are a lot of investors out there who are slimy. They don't have the other individual's best interest in mind. They're unethical, and they use strategies like this to take advantage of people. Don't be one of those people. If you want to have a long and prosperous investing career and you don't want karma to come back and bite you in a big way, you don't want to end up in a legal battle, always do the right thing. This strategy isn't always what is in the best interest of the homeowner, and it takes the right situation, it takes the right property, it takes the right timing of the market to be able to do this successfully. So if you're going to do this, always be sure to over disclose everything that you're doing to the seller to protect everyone. And also be sure to consult with an attorney or a CPA to make sure that you understand how to do it legally and ethically. Well, that does it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, watching this to the very end. What do you guys think? Is this a strategy that you plan on using to build your rental portfolio moving forward? If so, drop me a yes down below, or if you have any questions, be sure to put those in the comments section as well. If you got some value from this video, all I ask is that you smash that like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more investing, real estate, and entrepreneurship videos. And don't forget to hit that little notification bell to get notified of every upload that we're putting out, weekly videos, as well as we have all kinds of tools, freebies, resources in the show description below. My real estate investing course, if you want to know more about what it entails to work with me one-on-one to help you scale your real estate investments and portfolio to that 7-figure milestone and beyond. Or don't forget to take advantage of our free financial portfolio X-Ray. Our amazing team will go in and take a look at your investments, your retirement. Make sure all the things that you currently have in place or plan to put in place are actually aligned with the goals you're looking to achieve and by when. You can get all of that information down in the show description below. With that being said, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching this video, and until next one, cheers, my friends.